Salute. Welcome everybody to PR 61 Minute Podcast. I am your host. Today's topic, we will be discussing the BIGGIE SMALLS assassination and the players in the game. So first, we're going to start with this individual. Now, this individual is in the internet, is a big YouTuber, and his name is Gene Deal. Now, if you don't know who Gene Deal is a security guard that worked as a security guard for BADBOY Records. Now, Gene, I believe, is somebody that is going through, this is all allegedly for entertainment purposes only, has gone through some type of guilt experience. Now, this happens to a lot of people, allegedly for entertainment purposes only. They have some type of guilt and want the truth to come out, whether they like it or not, whether it is profitable for them or not. Now, there's a lot of things that contradict a lot of the things that Gene Deal has said. But the most interesting part of it, well, many parts of it, see, the thing is, a lot of times people may go on the internet and talk and not understand that a lot of people pay attention to what people saying. Now, one of the names that Gene Deal had brought to the attention of media and to a lot of people like me is the fact that he named somebody named Paul. Now, this gentleman named Paul, you even could hear Biggie referencing, calling him Uncle Paulie. And this person named Paul is the head of security of BADBOY Records. Now, my understanding was that, from the outside looking in, that I always thought Gene Deal was kind of like the head of security, in some way, somehow, because he has his connection to law enforcement in the East Coast as being a parole officer. If I'm mistaken, if I am, I apologize. But he mentioned this name Paul. Now, I always thought Paul was a white guy, not to be, whatever, but I always thought Paul was a white male. Never thought he was African American. On top of that, being one of the top enforcement for BMF. And I always wondered, why would Gene Deal leave this connection out, as far as Paul being the head of security for BADBOY Records, and then him stating that he was in charge of Diddy, when in reality he also mentioned that he was in charge of Biggie on his last days. So my question is, what I noticed when he mentioned the word Paul is that he's very careful what he mentions Paul with. So I always, I looked at that and I said, but who is Paul? So I looked up the information, and Paul is a BMF enforcer. This is allegedly for entertainment purposes only. This is information is out in the world, on the internet. Anybody could just Google it and type it in. So it's like, now I know BMF is big on drugs, right? And then we touched on Freeway Ricky Ross and Bernard Parks and the corruption in Compton, and the corruption in the 77 precinct. Now, this is not a show where I'm taking a brush and I'm painting every officer. I believe that a lot of officers are doing their job to the best to their abilities, but in every job, there are bad apples, there are bad workers. That's just the reality of things. To sit here and say that every cop is a bad cop, well, in this show will not be acceptable, because it's not reality. But we are going to talk about, and it's not far-fetched when we say that some parts of law enforcement were involved in the pushing and in the corruption in the urban neighborhoods in LA and across the United States. You know, that's just the reality of it. Now, when I touch down on the subject as far as, Free Ray Ricky Ross, Free Ray Ricky, and Bernard Parks, and them in this picture, and how weird it looked to me and to everybody else, how the chief of police would take a picture with somebody that didn't help, decimate, neighborhoods in South Central and throughout the United States. So I began to wonder. I was like, whoa, so you have somebody that is the plug, taking pictures of the chief of police, and in that corruption with Rand Park and everything else, and this chief of police being in charge of, also involving, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, covering up the Biggie Smalls assassination. The wonderful thing about this whole journey is that Gene Deal, without knowing or unknowingly, made these connections with Paul being a part of BMF, with Diddy getting allegedly his startup money to start up BADBOY Records. There's a lot that you can take away from this thing, because if you go back to Jimmy Henchman and how Jimmy Henchman, the law enforcement brung down some time on him because he was moving drugs using concert equipment. So now you wonder. Now you have the head of security being BMF and a BMF enforcer, and then you have a record company that travels throughout all 50 states doing concerts and everything. What a perfect way to hide and to travel and to transfer and to do transactions, because when you do these concerts, you're touching down with people. So now I'm beginning to see, and I'm beginning to see the big picture as far as why I believe, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, that Gene Deal had left out that specific factor that Paul which is the head of security for BADBOY Records. His pride was Diddy. His was Biggie. Gene Deal was Biggie. Why would Gene Deal leave out the key factor that will connect BADBOY Records to BMF? And it's interesting because you could go on and on and on, because the connection with BMF and Jacob the Jeweler. Then you have the connection with BADBOY South and Jeezy. So you can see that. This is what they wanted to go into. They wanted to go into a legit business of music. That way they could use this as an excuse to be able to travel and not raise eyebrows. So it was a perfect cover-up for if you're actually transferring, drugs, money all throughout the United States, all throughout these urban ghettos. So it was this one of the reasons why the assassination of Biggie Smalls occurred? That something had went wrong. Now, we're gonna go in depth into that. This is just basically a quick teaser, because we all know that 50 Cent has something against Diddy, allegedly for entertainment purposes only. And there's no surprise to me that 50 Cent is coming out with a BMF series. I'm gonna be looking at that very, very closely. Not that I have to, but now looking at it from a bird's eye view, I could see he may be giving us hints in this series that Diddy was using drug money, was using BMF as some type of enforcers out there. And then we have the situation that happened in Atlanta with Anthony Wolf Jones and Big Meech. See, everything just comes now in full circle. Once you put the right players in the right pieces, then you can play chess. So let's play chess. But my opinion is, looking at it from a bird's eye view and looking at the autopsy reports stating the fact that Biggie Smalls got shot on his left side, and the car that drove past him was shooting from the right side. Now, Biggie Smalls wasn't I would say a very agile individual, and especially in the confined space of a Tahoe. Him getting shot on the right side door, but the bullet wounds entry wound was on the left side. And not only that, he got shot in his back. So anybody with a right mind will understand that Biggie Smalls did not get shot in that car. Biggie Smalls didn't get shot in that car, because if you look at the bullet trajectory, if you look at the exit wounds and the entry wound, it doesn't make sense with that story. But you gotta understand that at the time, the 77 precinct and the chief of police was Bernard Parks. And the corruption that came behind it with the whole Rampart, and how they try to kind of make it seems like Keefe D has something to do with it, but then they switched the story to, the officers, Rafael Perez and David Mack, I believe. Because if Pac was also, kind of like in some sort of way prophet. He prophesized this whole thing because he told us through the movies through gang related, making things gang related, So you have to understand, this is why I'm gonna make this quick because I don't want to give too much. But this is why, see, Pac knew what was coming. But not to go into that. We're gonna stick to Biggie Smalls and in that situation. which doesn't make any sense. And like I said, this is just going to be a teaser to a more in-depth conversation as far as what happened that March 9th and why was, the Nation of Islam in a way involved in this situation. Because if you look up the Nation of Islam and BMF, it intertwines with each other in Philadelphia. And what did Gene Deal said on that day? There was a white Land Cruiser, a white truck that has some friends of Biggie from Philadelphia. See, sometimes you just gotta let these people talk, and they will talk themselves into this situation. As far as now, people getting to understand all the players, then you understand the rules of the game and how it's applied. Because what these people would do, they will give you a million scenarios on what happened, but won't give you. They'll give you a drop of it, but you have to put it together. And now that we got, this connection with BMF and this person named Paul PJ, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, that is a enforcer for the BMF family. This is what this tells me, to me, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, is that rappers are mostly being used to kind of like drug mules, and how the drug business is into the music industry, is into every other industry. But Gene Deal, I wish, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, he would mention, why did he leave out that Paul is actually a member of BMF, and the connection that makes with BADBOY Records and the startup money, and how that situation led to another situation, which allegedly with Wolf and Big Meech, and how they try to make it seem like it wasn't kind of like a power grid going on. So if this would make sense to me, that Paul being the head of security and being the head of security is supposed to be somebody. I mean, this is a legit job. This is not, you're not going to have your uncles and nothing like that. But if you invest some type of money into a company, you will want to see your money. So you will want to be as close as you can be to the money. Now, who is the money in this situation? Of course, it's Diddy. So what better way to look over the money and look over the finances of being the head of security? That's clearance over everything, without having to have your fingerprints on all over. You're there, but you're not conducting any type of business. You're just there doing your job, but at the end of the day, you keep an eye on the money. And this would make sense. This is what I guess Gene Deal was trying to put out into the world. But he couldn't, because then they'll tie him into it. Because then you start putting together, it's like, well, why would you say that, the shooter came from this angle, but when in reality Biggie got shot on through this angle, and you gave this person a gun and nobody had a gun, and you had to give these people guns. So where did you get the guns? there's a lot to digest. But like I said, this is just a startup to something bigger. And this is all allegedly for entertainment purposes only. But this is the big connection. And at the end of the day, we just looking for closure to the murder, the assassination of the great Biggie Smalls. And that's what we're trying to do here at the 61-Minute Podcast. Bring closure to Miss Wallace that been lied to countless and countless times. And there will be more dots and there will be more connections. Just sit back and wait and enjoy your show. Salute. PR 61-Minute Podcast.